Hi, I'm Skylar with Pacific Coast Farmers Market Association. Today we're heading to Castroville to visit Groundstew Farms. Right now they're growing a few different varieties of lettuce, and we're going to find out how it's grown, planted, and harvested. We're so excited to visit, and we're even more excited that you're here with us. Let's go!
Hi, my name is Nicholas Ayala, and we're here at Groundstew Farms. We're located in Castroville. We're growing here on 5 acres. I fell in love with gardening originally, and that's how I started my love with growing produce. I started on a 100 square foot garden, and now we're here farming 5 acres, and we just added an additional 3 acres this year as well. I was working in accounting for a tech firm in Santa Barbara, and I just saved for about 6 years before I moved to the Salinas Valley. I started with a 1/4 acre, and then I added a 1/2 acre, and then I jumped all the way to 5 acres. We were just farming the flat areas, so we only had about 3 acres in production, and then we started to slowly integrate the slopes. Those are obviously a lot more challenging with having to work around with the tractor. It can be dangerous. Also, we have these beautiful great oak trees behind us, but they present their own problems with shade, especially during the winter. So it was really about figuring out what's going to grow the best in the specific areas.
Groundstew Farm produces a lot of veggies on just 5 acres of land. If laid out in a flat square, this farm would be the size of about 2 city blocks. But out here in the hills of Castroville, those 5 acres include rolling slopes, steep inclines, and stretches of long, flat land. In order to make the most out of his farm, Nick Ayala has to plan things out very carefully.
We want to have the things that take a long time away from the farm. It's kind of a steep hill that we have to walk up, so we're just putting the stuff that we don't have to worry about all the way at the top, since we rarely go up there. Here we have a sandier area, so we're trying to put things that take a little bit longer to grow, like fennel and celery and brassicas. Things that we harvest quickly, we put down there so we can harvest them continually and then be able to turn the soil.
Turning the soil is an important part in the farming process because it helps get the dirt ready for new seeds. This process is also known as tilling, and it involves breaking up the tougher, more compact areas of soil and removing any old unwanted weeds or roots.
Right now we are growing about 7 different varieties of lettuce. We're growing a butter leaf, a green leaf, a red leaf, 3 different types of little gems, and a romaine, a full-size romaine. We're growing all these different varieties because they mature at different rates. So that way we will always have at least 1 or 2 different varieties of lettuce at the farmer's market. We're growing the little gems because those grow the fastest, and in my opinion, they have some of the best flavors. The butter leaf, it's got its own unique texture compared to all the other lettuces. It's the softest, it's got the least amount of crunch, and then of course they have the gems, which have a lot of crunch, and then the romaines also have a lot of crunch, and then the red leaf and green leaf are about in the middle between those 3 varieties.
Lettuce might not be the most exciting vegetable around, but for farmers in Monterey County, this crop is no joke. Over 70% of America's lettuce comes from just this one small part of California. Groundstew benefits from the Monterey climate, where temperatures remain mild thanks to the coastal weather. Cool winds blow in from the ocean and push the warm air into the sky above, which in turn keeps the colder air pressed against the land's surface. This blanket of cool air is called the marine layer and is the secret ingredient in keeping Groundstew's lettuce crisp and delicious even through the hot summer months.
This is our main lettuce block that we grew for our spring harvest. Here we have red butter lettuce, and this is all ready to harvest. So I want to grow a ton of different lettuces, obviously, to have a nice offering at the farmer's market. I really trust my seed provider for recommendations. He helps to grow the seedlings for us, and he provides the best recommendations possible. But also, I like the little gems because they're quicker. Talking about 30 to 40 days versus 40 to 45 days for the large heads. So we plant them all at the same time. They mature at different times, and then we're able to harvest and have a continual harvest for the farmer's market at all times.
What exactly is lettuce mosaic virus? It's actually a common and really serious issue on most lettuce farms. And though the disease doesn't harm humans, infected lettuce becomes discolored, misshaped, and ultimately unmarketable. Restricting lettuce planting during the month of December is an attempt to limit the spread of lettuce mosaic virus by eliminating possible host plants.
I'll do the main planting, and then after that we'll just do short plantings after that because of the fact that these will hold so long in the field. We don't have to keep doing really big lettuce plantings all summer long. Plus, as the summer goes along, people will eat less and less lettuce because they're not accustomed to seeing a lot of lettuce in the middle of July and August. We could plant lettuce year-round here. In Monterey County, we have a restriction on planting lettuce during the months of December, and that's due to lettuce mosaic virus. And that's a large issue in the area, but the regulations have helped mitigate the problem. I don't have any of that issue here, so I'm just consider myself lucky. You know, I'll harvest the last of the lettuce on December 7th, and then we won't be able to plant until January. Now, when we're planting in January, the daylight hours are so short that anything that we plant in that time is going to take twice as long to grow.
Like all living things, lettuce needs sunshine to grow. So during those cold, dark winter months like January and February, lettuce takes a lot longer to get to the desired size.
So I'll start planting as soon as the restrictions are lifted, and we won't really get a good harvest until the end of February and beginning of March. And those lettuce heads are about 3/4 the size of their potential. So people aren't that impressed about the lettuces at that time of the year anyways. People want like hardier things. So it's not really something that I rely on at that time of the year. But then after that, I'll just keep doing lettuce every month. I'll get enough lettuce so that I can plant at least twice a month. And then that keeps the lettuce flow growing.
There's plenty of reason people have always told you to eat your lettuce. It's high in dietary fiber as well as vitamin A, which is good for your eyes, and vitamin K, which is good for your blood. Different lettuce varieties also contain a number of important minerals, such as magnesium, potassium, and iron, just to name a few. Lettuce is a good source of water. In fact, lettuce's high water content is what gives it that refreshing, crunchy texture. Of course, in order for veggies to have such high nutritional value, the journey begins with plenty of healthy soil.
This time, what I did was I put the fertilizer down first, and then I tilled that into the soil. So it became more readily available for the plants. And I think that's moving forward, that's what I'll be doing.
How do they manage watering all of the crops on these 5 acres of soil?
We are using one main line to water all of these rows. We're using drip tape to help prevent erosion additionally and to reduce the amount of water that we're using. And then we're using limiters up and down this to control pressure, to make sure that each line is getting watered evenly. That's a challenge for some of the crops. Then we'll notice that there's more water pressure at the bottom of the hill, so we'll tend to put things that need more water towards the bottom. But also, like I was saying, we just installed valves up and down the top to make them into smaller blocks so that we can make sure that we're getting enough pressure at the top of the line, because that was an issue. We would have too much pressure at the bottom, and then there'd be leaking at the end of the hoses. Yeah, so the rows are facing perpendicular to the slope of the hill to prevent erosion. And having them like this at a slight diagonal allows for the water to run down the sides and then run down each row so that they don't get washed out.
Okay, so that solves the problem of irrigating, but what about insects and other pests?
We have insect pest pressure, but since we're doing a lot of crop rotations, we don't really have too much problems with it. Last year I didn't spray any pesticides on any of my plants, and I didn't have a major issue at all. Now the gophers, you can see down the line here, that's a big issue and why you'll see so many missing plants. They'll just come up, they'll eat the roots and pull the plant down into the soil. The other problem is the squirrels, and that is a big problem, as you can see right here. But we've been keeping the population under control over the years, so there's not as much pressure as there was when we first started growing here 3 years ago. Well, and then, like I said, we'll start harvesting when they're young, and then we'll just continually harvesting these crops. And because of the fact that the cooler temperatures, they will hold in the field much longer than anywhere else. When we're harvesting our lettuce, we're just gonna pick up the leaves from the bottom and give it a quick slice. There we are. There's a beautiful head of butter lettuce ready to sell at the farmer's market. Mostly I won't cut any of the leaves off because all the outer leaves are gonna protect the inners. At the farmer's market, when we pull it out of the box and we see that there's a little damage right here, we might just tear that off or tear off the bottom leaves like that. Throw the snails away, give it a quick rinse, and it's ready to go. Just like that. And then, so this is our second planting of lettuce. Our third planting of lettuce, rather, and this will be ready in about 30 days. And then we have these ones right here that are pretty much ready already. Give them another week to mature and close up. You can tell that when they're ready to harvest by the open nature or the closed nature of the leaves. As they close up, they'll close up like this, and then you'll know that they're ready to harvest. And if you don't harvest them within a week or two, maybe 3 here, because we have a cool weather climate, they'll bolt.
In agriculture, bolting is when a plant suddenly grows very tall and produces flowers. This is the plant's attempt to make seeds in order to reproduce, either as a natural step in maturity or as a response to hot weather. When the plant begins to produce flowers, the flavor and texture change drastically. After bolting, a head of lettuce can go from perfectly good to totally inedible.
And then once they bolt, lettuce is not good. It's terrible. It gets super bitter, so it's no longer any good. I had the other lighter red one, but we finished that harvest already, so we don't have those available to show you today. But this is the dark red gem, and you'll see it just got really beautiful leaves.
Wait a second, isn't lettuce supposed to be green? Well, that depends. Most leaves are green because of the abundance of chlorophyll, the main chemical that allows plants to get energy from the sun. Chlorophyll absorbs all of the colors from the sun except for green, so green is reflected back at our eyes. When a plant's leaves are red, there is still plenty of chlorophyll. However, there are a bunch of other chemicals that outshine the chlorophyll and reflect red rather than green. The color of the leaf indicates how much light a plant absorbs, and can have an interesting effect on growth. Since the red and green lettuces mature at different times, that means Groundstew always has consistency and know that they always have reliable items to bring to the farmers markets.
Plants grow better with green leaves. Why? Because of the intensity of the sun's rays, and so there's less green in the sunlight than there is any other color. So it's like the opposite, right? So the green leaves absorb the sun's rays better than the red leaves. So for instance, the green cabbage takes 60 to 90 days to grow, but the red cabbage might take at least 90 to 120 days to grow. And so the red leaves grow slower, and so that way we can plant both red and green lettuce, and they will mature at different times. I mean, all the produce is harvested by hand. So everything is pretty low tech except for the tractor. Oh, this is the tractor that we use. It's a specialized tractor for row crops. It's got a 48-inch wheelbase, so it works perfectly for small farms. This piece of equipment right here is our rototiller slash bed shaper. As we finish harvesting a crop, we'll run over the vegetables to return the organic matter to the soil. Yeah, so this is our ripper. This is what we use to do deep tilling and tractor work. This is a very special ripper though, because it's powered by the PTO, the power takeoff, and that's the shaft on the back of a tractor that you can use to power implements. Normally, you would use a much larger tractor to rip soil, but since I only have a small tractor, I bought this piece of equipment which vibrates very, very vigorously to get deep into the soil. And specifically this one's nice because it only has one tine, so we can rip up a bed one at a time and be able to do deep tilling. The tine is the this big metal shaft right down here. You can't really see because it's covered in dirt. Normally what you would see on larger farms is at least 2 to 5 tines. And the more tines that you have, the more drag you're gonna create on your tractor. So this is the perfect amount of tines for the tractor that I have.
Groundstew is a smaller farm, but growing here can still be a big challenge. Nick is thoughtful to organize his workday around the specific needs of each crop, the microclimates and soil types on his farm, and even the preferences of his customers.
So we're starting about 7 a.m. in the morning, and then usually we try to harvest our strawberries first. That way they don't have a lot of heat on them. When we're harvesting them in the morning, it's very cold, and that helps to keep the produce fresh for the next day at the farmer's market. So right now we have 3 full-time employees. They're working 6 days a week, up to 12 hours a day. So we are working hard out here to bring all these great veggies to the market. I'm interested in trying new things, so I like to grow new things, but also I'm interested in growing things for customers specifically too. I had no idea what sorrel was, but I had kept getting questions about it in San Francisco all the time, and so it was something that I decided to plant. Yeah, once you have a knack for growing row crop vegetables, it's easy to learn to grow a new crop. I mean, if you follow the directions on your seed packet very well, you're going to have at least moderate success. People are always asking me, well, how do you grow this? I'm like, well, did you look at the instructions on the seed packet? Like, they're there for a reason. Like, just follow those.
Okay, duly noted. Reading the growing instructions on the seed packet is definitely part of being a successful farmer. But there have to be other factors too, right?
There's a benefit having the cooler climate for lettuce production, kale production, chard production. But then also, it does hurt us in some aspects for growing summer crops. So that's why I got additional land this year in Aptos. It's a hot weather climate, and that's why I'll be growing my peppers and tomatoes. The soil here is very sandy though, so in the past when I would grow the peppers and tomatoes, they would have excellent flavor. They take a little bit longer to grow, but you can really taste the difference.
But how does the sandy soil actually affect the taste?
Yeah, so the sandy soil provides a lot of mineral content for the plants. So when you're eating a tomato or a pepper, you can taste the difference from like one that was grown on my farm versus one that was grown on a farm that's heavier soil, like a heavier clay. They'll just have different flavor profiles. It doesn't really affect the sugar content, but it does affect the mineral content, which provides a lot of flavor for the vegetables.
Since first starting Groundstew Farms, Nick Ayala has poured his passion and creativity into his farming. While he was not born and raised in a farming background, he works hard, he does his research, and he stays connected to his customers by frequently attending farmers markets. Nick Ayala takes pride in his work, and he shows it by providing the Bay Area with high-quality produce.
The thing that we're most proud about is our connection with the people and bringing them delicious organic vegetables that are fresh to their markets, to their homes. Yeah.
While gardening and agriculture came more naturally to Nick, there were still some challenges that came with being a small farm owner.
A year for me to get a handle on how to market things. I think that's one of the most important things that I learned my first year was how to market the produce so that it would be sold more quickly at the farmer's market. And then also just gaining a clientele. But I've always liked working with people. That's the two things that I definitely love the most, is being able to grow some amazing vegetables and then being able to bring it to a customer and show them something new that they may not have tried before. Sell to the local coolers around here that do distribution, and it's a different standard, but usually I don't focus on that, so I will just pick whatever to their standard, and whatever we have left over will go to the farmers markets. This weird thing, right? So people will sell to the farmers markets, they'll sell their poor quality stuff, or it'll be the reverse. Like the strawberries, we don't sell the good strawberries to the wholesalers. We sell the best strawberries at the farmers market because people come to the farmers market for the quality fruit. Whereas for the vegetables, it doesn't necessarily need to be perfect. Perfect looking, because the taste is there, and that's what's important to people. The farmers markets are important to communities because we're able to come out to their community and bring them fresh produce, bring them healthy foods, and then also bring them an experience that they might not be used to. They get to come to the farmers market and talk about vegetables. I mean, when you go to the grocery store, you don't get that same experience. You can talk to the produce buyer, and he just knows where he bought from. He doesn't know how it was grown and what it took to grow it.
After our day on the farm with Nick and his team, we know that growing lettuce takes the perfect climate, some sunshine, and a ton of hard work.
Well, that sums up our adventures today at Groundstew Farms. Thanks for coming along with us. We hope you learned some interesting facts, and more importantly, we hope you had fun. Can't wait to see you next time.